香港人加油！依家係香港凌晨4點鐘，4 a.m. Hong Kong time，咁就喺 New York 咧，依家係啱啱3點鐘3 p.m. 咁就今日請嚟有位朋友咧，係猶太裔嘅 Nicole。今日咧我哋咧想傾下香港嘅問題啦。咁Nicole 亦都喺香港住咗一段比較長嘅時間。Nicole, it's good to have you appearing at Etchin World and Etchin Life. Etchin World is basically a Cantonese channel, and Etchin Life, it's English and Cantonese, but we are simulcast broadcasting it live on both channels to get the maximum reach.
Right.
Yeah. I guess it's my last 24 hours now in New York City. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and Washington, D.C. Don't ask me what I did. I did a lot of things like what a lot of people will be doing anyways. But then I guess the common denominator is, there's a lot of political prisoners, a lot of detainees still in Hong Kong. They have lost their freedoms. And it's Chinese New Year coming up. And I am part of the movement called Pray for Hong Kong, asking Christians and Catholics and people with faith to pray for those who are detained, who could be facing long sentences. Now, a lot of these trials have not even got started. So it's more than surreal to see this happening in Hong Kong. Now, you come from a Jewish faith, which is different from Christian or Catholic. And I know for Jewish people, religion is part of their lives, and keeping their culture, the identity, the language, it's important. Now, I first know of the Jewish culture when I was in grade 11, when I was in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I got a Jewish classmate. So that's how I know about the praying, and then a little bit about Judaism. Yeah. How do people keep their hope alive, and especially Israel lost the country, and then it takes 2,000 years for Israel to rebuild the nation, right? So how could Jewish people keep that faith of rebuilding something after so many years? Tell me, I just don't know.
Well, I mean, the idea of Israel is or the idea of redemption, or returning to Jerusalem, returning to Israel from exile, is said 3 times a day in the daily prayers. If you look at the daily prayers, it's not that people would necessarily ever visualize that in the beginning of the 19th century, 20th century, but I guess the idea of returning to Zion, which is what the literal translation of those prayers was said for 2,000 years, 3 times a day. And the idea that we would have some kind of redemption and return to Jerusalem, or return to rebuild another temple within the religion, it became more of a political idea with Theodor Herzl in the 1800s. Before that, it wasn't necessarily conceivable that there would be a Zionist movement or an actual reality for that. But I guess out of the ashes of the persecutions in the early 19th century, and then the culminating in the Holocaust, it became more of a political reality and a necessity.
Right.
But the idea has been talked about for thousands of years.
Yes. I mean, preserving the language, the religion, it's important, passing from generation to generation.
Yeah, very much so, yes.
Yeah. And you live in Hong Kong since, from
2009.
2009, 1 year after the Lehman crisis.
Yes.
Yeah. Till about 2 years ago, I guess.
Till 2019, in the middle of 2019.
In the middle of 2019, when all the protests got started.
In the summer of 2019, we left, yes.
So you see these big rallies, 1 million people who came out and 2 million people who came out.
Yep.
You saw that?
Yep, I was there.
Right.
It was incredible. Amazing power, amazing sort of energy.
And in the media, people still remember you as the person who made
Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy cry.
Yep.
Yeah. It's good too.
Yeah. That was incidental. I was meant to ask him a question and I didn't realize that was going to be a live event. So there he was on the live event, and I just said what was in my heart, really, which was just to say that people were behind him, that the ideas that he had for democracy, freedom of speech, all those things in Hong Kong, that we all supported him. That was well before he was arrested, well before people realized what danger he was in, and well before a time when people could conceive that Apple Daily would be closed down. But yeah, there was a lot of support for him in the paper.
Okay, something just came to my eye. Sorry. But anyways, I talked to a lot of people about different things. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, visiting Martin Luther King, Dr. King's cemetery, the Eternal Flame. Talk about democracy. It takes faith and also time, and sometimes human beings' timing might be different from God's timing. Because when people say, go back to the original one country, two systems, as prescribed in the basic law, and also the Deng Xiaoping 1.0 model. Most people kind of laugh and say, why are you still talking about it? Because I believe as a Hong Konger, the reason why I was brought back to Hong Kong in the year 2000 was I believe in the two systems model until it got dismantled. So I will mock at those, and I will mock at those people who kind of destroyed this original model. But then, of course, like when we see all these massive arrests, it's more than surreal. So how do we reclaim Hong Kong back to its old glory? It's something not really like an academic theory, but then we see a lot of people have already left, and maybe the only way is to rebuild this so-called Hong Kong Lion Rock spirit in different major cities like New York, Toronto, Vancouver, London, where there are a lot of Chinese population. And those who are non-Chinese, like yourself, that live in Hong Kong, who know the old Hong Kong. Yeah.
I think the Lion Rock spirit is an integral part of Hong Kongers and the way they've been brought up and their history and what each immigrant and wave of immigration to Hong Kong brought with them in terms of looking forward, looking to the future and rebuilding. And even if those communities are doing that now in the diaspora, they will give that spirit to their children because it's something they remember from their parents and their grandparents, and it's just something natural to Hong Kongers. I think they did it when they moved after handover, when many of them moved to Vancouver and built lives and communities and businesses in Vancouver. Many of them moved back to Hong Kong and maybe have left again. But I mean, I think Hong Kongers have got that energy. There's an energy in Hong Kong with Hong Kongers that is unbeatable.
Yeah. Now, talk about yourself too. You're raised in the UK. Now you live in New York, and not too long ago you were in the UK, meet up with some of the old friends that you met when you were in Hong Kong, right? And now they are resettled in London mostly, right? How are they doing?
I think there's a range between people who are educated, who have money, who have professions. I think for them it will be easier to transplant their lives and to rebuild their lives. I think for younger Hong Kongers who had to leave, I think that process will be much harder. I think some of them are still in shock and they have to start again, and some of them don't have their families, they don't have support. I worry more about them.
Right.
They don't have the same resources
as like some of the more well-known dissidents or people with a professional background. The legal profession.
Or any profession really. If they've gone to the UK, they will certainly make a massive contribution to British society. As will the younger ones, but the ones without those resources will struggle, I think.
This exodus could be massive. Since we talk about what happened in Israel 2,000 years ago, Israel lost the nation 2,000 years ago. Now Hong Kong, as they resettle, it's a massive exodus, and close to 90,000 people left last year just to the UK, right? And then the exodus could get escalated. It could be in the next 9 more years, be like 1 million people, right?
Yeah.
And then those who might be relocating back to Canada, and then through the Stream A and Stream B initiative of the Canadian government, more might go.
Right.
Yeah. So this is like replacing the old Hong Kong generation with mainland people.
Yeah.
Definitely. So how to really keep that Lion Rock spirit alive? It depends on the Hong Kongers who are still alive, right? I guess. And this is passing on. I just want to ask you for the experience because you are Jewish. 2,000 years is a long time. So is it from parents to kids? You talk about story through bedtime reading. How does it work?
I think it works in lots of ways. I mean, one of the ways that springs to mind, comes into my head, is food. You know, I asked Hong Kongers in the UK, what do you miss most about Hong Kong?
Yeah.
All of them say food. And, you know, Cantonese food, Hong Kong food is distinct from any other region in China. And it's the thing people miss most. And they complain about the restaurants in the UK. They haven't found a good Hong Kong cafe. And I know with Jewish people, food is very central to gathering, to meeting, to celebrations. Every Friday night, Jewish people get together to have a meal together. They bring the family together. So I think food is a very central part, and I think that will emerge in diaspora communities. I was talking with Hong Kongers about the Jewish community when they moved from Germany and Austria between the wars, and then after the Second World War. There are famous cafes all over London where the emigres would sit and they would talk politics or culture. They met. It was where to go to meet your fellow country, your group. And I think those things will emerge too in different cities around the globe, where Hong Kongers will meet. They'll eat Hong Kong food that meets their expectations.
But more important, though, if I may, just go back to the core of it all, which is now this is not a stock ticket symbol. These are the names of people that you know, including Jimmy Lai, that you were on this show just less than 8 months ago, actually, right? Was it?
No, it was the summer before last. It was 2019, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So still like quite recent. Yeah, and then some other people's, some of the names you might recognize: Albert Ho, Claudia Mo. They're all detained. For a lot of them have been close to a year or over a year now.
Yeah.
So this is that's even before a trial.
Exactly. I think this period of pre-trial detention is quite shocking. I think it's obviously very cruel punishment. Really.
Yeah.
There's no bail. There's been no bail set. There's been no public hearings of the bail. Public broadcast of the bail hearings, and I think they're attempting to break their spirit through that way.
And there's no jury for NSL.
Yeah.
So I guess it's the chief executive who cherry-pick the NSL judges, and then they will decide, you know, what sentence these so-called alleged
subversives. Yeah. I think one of the only comforts I have in this thinking about it is that a lot of those people in jail have their faith.
Yes, they have strong faith.
They have strong faith and something to cling to take them through these very dark days and the days ahead, really, as well. Yeah.
I guess, Nicole, thank you for doing a lot for Hong Kong, but at the same time, maybe can you give some advice to those people who are still outside, especially the family members of those who are detained? How can they survive under such difficult time? Because the visiting part is very challenging. It takes half a day just to go to Lai Chi Kok. And you have been to a lot of the trials at West Kowloon, I know. So any tips? And I know a lot of them actually still who are going there to Lai Chi Kok, and those who are already serving prison terms, it's 2 times a month, 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm
not in a position to offer advice, but I guess I'm hoping that they keep the faith and that they keep that those communication lines open with people who are inside. If they can get letters, if they can get any kind of support, it knows that those people inside will know that they're not forgotten, that people are thinking of them, praying for them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm just going to read some comments. 好羨慕香港人英文厲害. This gentleman saying really happy for Hong Kongers because they can understand English well. It's written in Mandarin. I guess
Right.
Also supporters of our program. Doesn't mean that all simplified version viewers are pro the other side. So yeah. So that's how things are now. And in New York, I know there's a group called New York for Hong Kong, who sometimes organize rallies to make people not to forget those who are detained.
Yep.
At Lime Rock Cafe as well.
Yeah. I think there are lots of groups that want to shine a light and a beacon to the Hong Kong that we left behind and to.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess what's going to happen is in 2022, a lot of groups might have either virtual or real gathering. I was told by some organizers who want to have a North American gathering to think about how can we keep this Hong Kong heritage survive and move forward. Yeah, the Lime Rock spirit.
Yep.
Maybe with the UK too, when the travel ban is less restrictive.
Yes. Yep.
And so far, it's not too painful. I mean, for Americans going to the UK, you can enter there, and then coming back, you just need to do a PCR test, right? It's not too painful.
Observe lateral flow. No, it's just the jet lag that's painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nothing is too painful.
No. Obviously, for Hong Kongers, travel is much more challenging now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of look forward to see the last leadership in New York. I'm meeting with one of the leaders of the movement who support Hong Kong tomorrow, and I will have a long drive back to the border.
Wow. Right.
Yeah. And we all pray for those who are detained.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing with us about how the Jewish community do it for 2,000 years. You know, keeping the faith alive is not easy, but then with a real, true faith and love for a cause, anything is possible.
Yeah, I think identity is especially in these days where we have so much not merging of cultures. I think identity, where you've come from is where you're going, and I think it's really important. So I'm very proud of my Jewish heritage, and I would like to teach that to my children, and I know Hong Kongers are proud of theirs.
Right. And please support our program through any shape or form, through the patreon.com/Etchin, or any way you can think of helping our program to be reached to and penetrate to different communities. We would appreciate it. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.